This channel is meant for viewers of the age of 21 and older. If you are under the age of 21, I caution you at this point because the United States government has passed a tobacco 21 law to make it illegal for anyone under the age of 21 to actually view this. So, fuck them. This channel also contains adult language, hence the parental advisory at the beginning of this video. So if you don't like cussing, get the fuck on. And finally, this channel is not a sales-based channel whatsoever. I am not a business. I am a private hobby-based product reviewer. I don't care if a product succeeds, fails, sits in the middle. Not my problem. I'm here simply to help the viewers make positive decisions in what they're going to spend their money on. I don't give a shit about sales. Y'all have a good one. What is going on, folks? I am Jared, the Vaping Goat. How the fuck are you guys doing? I know it's been a minute. So, I got a couple of products sent to me by Steam Crave. Now, I put these up in my Facebook group, and I put them up in the community tabs. Community tabs, like there's multiples. I put it up in the community tab. Either way, we're jumping into the first one. First one being the Aromamizer Supreme V3. Steam Crave Aromamizer Supreme V3. Yes, that is not the stock drip tip. That's actually the drip tip off of the Dead Rabbit RTA. We'll get into that. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not doing a table cam. Really not. I'm going to get my focusy thingy out because we are going to need that for what we're doing. I'm not going to do a table cam for the next 3 videos, truth be told, because there's no damn need. Okay? And this is no knock on the companies whatsoever. This is just how I feel like doing them because this is me. Let's jump into the obvious before let's go into the package real quick. So, obviously this, okay? Obviously, you got the box. You got cotton. You got the mesh kit. See, whole little mesh kit right there. Boom, boom, boom. So, sorry about that mic bump there. Got the mesh kit. You got a little 510 adapter, as you would kind of expect these days, a little 510 adapter. You have a chimney and a straight glass, which actually is what comes pre-installed. You got straight glass there and a little chimney right here. Boom, boom. And then you have the stock drip tip, which is not bad per se, but I'm just not really a big fan of it. Then, of course, you get the hardware packs and you get your little triple tree, right? And then you get the cool factor. Now, I'm going to be perfectly honest. I did not think that this was going to be the cool factor. Really didn't. Really didn't. When I saw pictures of this thing, I honestly hated the idea. I'm going to be completely blunt about this. I really thought it was kind of stupid. I was wrong. Got the single coil deck. Now, as you can see, it's obviously used, a little grubby. That is a 4mm inner diameter coil, okay, on a single coil deck. Now, what you have here is you have airflow right there, okay, which draws in and gives you airflow in like a little quarter pipe. Okay, so a little, sorry, wrong way, a little swooping little quarter pipe right there. Okay, so the airflow basically draws in. Sorry, let me get the lighting right there. You see the little ports? Airflow draws in right there and then gives you that little swooping half pipe or quarter pipe looking little setup. Okay, that's the package. Yeah, the other thing that you get with it, truthfully, is you get a dual coil deck. That's what's in here. I've got it, if I turn the damn thing on, sitting on top of the Cold Steel 200 by Nebelfie and EH Pro. Yep. 0.16 dual 4mm coil build inside of a 25mm RTA. Yeah. I'm taking this shit out just because why not? Not kidding you. And this is not the prettiest build I've ever done. Okay? Again, you guys know my stance on this. With tanks, God, I am just beating the shit out of the mic tonight. With tanks, I don't give a fuck what they look like on the inside. And if you want to judge me on my builds and everything, go right ahead. Be my guest. I don't really care. So, yeah. Dual 4mm tri-core fused Clapton. That's a tight, snug little fit. 3.5mm leg lengths with about a 1.5mm gap from build deck to bottom of the coil. Very simple. Now, if you want to know how the dual coil builds and wicks, this is why I'm not doing a table cam for this. There is absolutely no need whatsoever, okay? First and foremost, if you want to know how to do the dual coil deck, you've either never touched a Steam Crave product, or you've only ever dealt with their single coil decks, or their old velocity decks even. But basically, it builds and wicks the exact same way as this, which is the Aromamizer Plus V2. Now, mine does look a little different than the standard. This is actually the Aromamizer Plus V1 glass and chimney with the top cap for the V2. Okay? So, if that's the case, if it builds the same, because this comes with a single coil option, well, you can buy the kit to get the single coil build deck, you can buy the kit to get the mesh build deck, and then you can get a series build deck or a standard dual coil build deck. It's a very, very versatile tank, okay? Plus you get multiple capacities, plus you get cross compatibility between the V1 and the V2. The V2 and the V3 have compatible deck sizes, that's about it, okay? It is what it is. That's okay though, because like the V2 did have a different single coil deck, which is cool. And then it also had, let's see here, had the dual coil, which did come with a postless later, but if I remember correctly, initially it was a velocity. So you had 3 different decks there, but it's literally the exact same postless as what was in the V2. But the single coil deck, very, very different. The single coil deck out of the V2, the Supreme V2, was very much like what the single coil deck is for this presently, okay? Basically a full half pipe, drop your coil in, get a pretty good diameter out of it. Like I could fit up to a 6mm inside of the V2 single coil deck. Tested it with my buddy Brian's. Yes, definitely do it. About the biggest you want to fuck with here is maybe, and I mean pushing it, maybe 4.5mm. Like you're going to be basically damn near touching the build deck other than that. Or shorting it out on the inside of the chamber with the Supreme V3. So let's go to the obvious. Let's go to pros first of all. Okay, I'm not actually going to end this on a negative so much, but we are going to do pros then cons. Pros is with the single coil, because it's basically a single airflow inlet by design, to a point. I mean, like it is and it isn't. Okay, like it's got dual airflow. It's not even front on that. Because even though it looks like it's got single airflow coming only from this side, if you take into account the airflow is actually blowing in on this side too, it's actually a straight up dual airflow deck. And you have the exact, well, I made a mess of the tank obviously because I just took it apart, but you have the exact same airflow settings as the Aromamizer Plus V2. So you can go frickin' wide open, okay, you can see right there. You can go to the 2 or you can go to the single. And all of that plays into account on your build and which deck you're running. That's the truth of it. The mesh deck is better with the 2 or the single row. The dual coil deck is obviously better with the wide open or the 2 row, in my opinion, depending on your build too. Kind of wattage, you know, because I'm running 85 watts with a 0.16, so nice open airflow. But I mean, just to test the theory here, let me open the. Next, I have the juice flow partially closed. There, 120 watts. Okay, 120 watts on normal 0.16 on a 25mm RTA. Works great, and it's really not that hot. Again, that's wide open airflow. I've just been personally finding comfort at the 85 watt range. So pro, very, very familiar. Another pro, the single coil deck, truthfully, is way more flavorful than what I thought it was going to be. I'm not even going to front about that. Like I said, when I first saw the pictures pop up on Steam Crave's Facebook page, I was like, man, this is not going to be a good thing. I just really didn't think it was. And I was wrong. It's actually a very flavorful deck. So for low wattage vapors or somebody wanting to do just a fat, kind of a chunky 4mm, you know, if you're doing kind of exotic coils, I would not take it past 4mm. I will say that. And you do have to take into account that there's only so much exotic that you can do because the coil ports are a little limited, the holes on each side of the post there. So like A tricore, depending on the gauge, probably 26 wrapped in a 36 will be about the biggest you can fit in there. Not going to be able to fit like some staple staggered fused Claptons or some big fat ass Fralians or something like that. There are some big chunky frame staples, you know, but I mean, you can do some pretty decent coils in the single, you know, but again, I mean, it's a single coil. You know, some people really dig exotic coils. Others just go for simplicity. And truth be told, with a single coil, I tend to go more dual core, tricore, biggest, just because I'm not going for anything nuts. And that single coil right there is a single coil is a dual 28 wrapped in a 40, and it ohmed out at like 0.74. I was vaping that thing at like, you know, 40, 45 watts on the single airflow setting. So it was very flavorful, very flavorful. And the wicking is stupid easy. I mean, it wicks just like every other Steam Crave product, which is one thing I love about the way they do things. They keep things very damn familiar, so it's just not hard. The availability for 5 or 7 mil capacity is good. Is a little taller. I mean, just like in comparison, I can compare this to the Aromamizer Plus V2, okay, and that's with the V1 10 mil glass, so it's basically a 14 mil tank, but the 10 mil glass and chimney, okay, or I can even compare it to the Ragnar, okay, compare this to Ragnar, 25 millimeter compared to a 35 millimeter. It's damn near the same freaking height, okay, so it is a little tall. I mean, like, one of the big tall tanks recently has been the Widowmaker. Okay, and by comparison, the Widowmaker is not much taller. So it's not like it's a stumpy little tank. It's really not. But the capacity is good. The flavor is good. Building on it, stupid fucking easy. Mesh deck, good. I mean, it's everything that you would expect with the present line and the present designs of the tanks. I will say there's an inherent flaw, okay? It's the truth of it. And I can show you the inherent flaw between the Titan and their newest design tanks, okay? There is one little flaw that you really have to nail your wicking with, otherwise you're going to make a frickin' mess, okay? One big complaint people had about the Aromamizer Plus V1, the Supreme V1, the Supreme V2, and the Titan is how low the juice flow control sits, okay? You can see the ring. You can see the little lock thing right here. It's all the way at the bottom, okay? The Aromamizer Plus V2, the Ragnar, and the Supreme V3. Juice flow is right here. The little nubby one above the airflow. So you have all this juice just sitting in the chamber and basically in a reservoir down below. So all that juice, if you have your shit wick too light, if you tip your tank, it's going to fill your pocket. No getting around that at all. None. There's just end of line, man. I mean, you're going to have a soggy pocket, soggy purse, just depending on where you carry your stuff. And that applies for the Aromamizer Plus V2, the Ragnar, and the Supreme V2, or V3. The juice flow control sitting low minimizes the amount of reservoir liquid sitting at the bottom. So if your wicking is too light, you're going to have a very, very minimal mess. In turn, with it having so much more of a reservoir sitting below the juice flow control, if you wick it too light and you tip it, you're going to have a mess. It's just how it is. So the big question I've had a bunch of people ask me is very, very simple, and I'm going to answer it right now. Okay, because cons are simple. I think the juice flow control, I'm more of a fan of the juice flow control being towards the bottom, leaving a minimal reservoir. That way I can choose to wick it lighter and get a little bit more of a saturated vape rather than having to wick it just a touch tighter, but I don't find it as a game killer per se. But like the V2, and I didn't say this in the V2, and I didn't say this in a Ragnar because I noticed it after the fact. Because I don't usually do a lot of pocket carrying, you know, I really don't. I'm usually 2-3 mods with me, and they're just in my hand. And I noticed that as jacket weather hit, shit would sit in my pocket a little crooked, and all of a sudden, you know, because I wick stuff a little lighter. I like that more saturated vape. And I've noticed it with all 3 of these tanks. So it is kind of a thing that you need to kind of bear in mind. The single coil deck, not so much, but the dual coil, most definitely. Especially if you're going for the bigger, like 3.5, 4 millimeter coils and you're thinning your wicking down, don't thin it down too much. It's a very fine line. That's a con. A personal con for me, I'm not a big fan of the drip tip. I prefer a little wider bore, and I think something like this, even though the Dead Rabbit isn't a huge wide bore drip tip, it's a nice shallow drip tip. It looks really sexy on this thing, especially when you stick, you know, a little solid jet black vape band on top of a black and gold setup. It's just a sexy look. But I think this is a little better option of a drip tip than this stock kind of nipply looking one. That's really about all the cons I have, though. So let's make the truest comparison of all here, okay? The biggest question that so many people have asked me since they saw me put the picture up is very, very simple. If you can buy this, which basically does all the same shit as this, why? What is the big difference between this to this? There's two things, okay? One, when built properly, I personally find better flavor out of the Supreme V3 than I do the Aromamizer Plus V2. I do. Big reason, in my opinion, honestly, is chamber size. Because they build the same damn way. They have the exact same style of airflow, so your coils are positioned in the exact same freaking way, but your chamber size is so much more minimal that there's just less room, you know, there's just less room in the chamber, so all that flavor is going straight out of the chimney instead of having more buildup, you know? So I think you get a much more pronounced flavor out of the V3 compared to the Aromamizer Plus V2. The other thing is this. This is a 30 millimeter tank. As you can see, mild overhang on both sides. Yes, I have mods that accommodate. I just really like this Vupu Zip Alpha Zip, so it is what it is. That, and if you look at it from this side, they don't look bad at all. So, but the other thing is this, not just more pronounced flavor, because it's basically the same damn tank. Let's just be real about this, okay? This is basically the same tank, except for a huge, huge change, 25 millimeters. Now, how many mods out there actually accommodate for a 30? This is Steam Crave saying, okay, we made a winner with the Aromamizer Plus V2. We made a winner with the Ragnar being a 35 millimeter, all with changing the juice flow positioning and changing the airflow design. So why not take the Supreme and go the same direction? Let's change the single coil deck up a little bit, which, depending on how you do single coils, you might look at that as a con, you might look at that as a pro. I think it's a good deck, but if you like doing big diameter coils, you may not like it. So, but overall, this is going to accommodate to other mods so much better than the Plus V2 or the Ragnar, because it's a 25 millimeter. It's just how it is. So, I mean, would I recommend this tank? Yes, I would. I actually would. Truth be told, I didn't really know for sure how I was going to feel about it. I'm not even going to lie. Like I said, I saw the single coil deck, and I just thought to myself, man, I don't know how good this is going to be. I really don't. And I'm glad to be wrong. I'm glad to be very wrong, actually. So, I mean, you may not like the juice flow positioning. Sorry, I am bumping the shit out of my mic tonight. You may not like the juice flow positioning. You may not like the single coil deck because you can't do large diameter like you could with the Supreme V2, but the Supreme V2 deck will fit. You know, you may not like how tall the tank is. And I can say this, with the glass, it really doesn't change in height, so it's just a tall tank. There's a few things that some people may not like, but this is a much more accommodating tank to the more mass-produced mods out there. So that's literally the best I can say. I mean, is it a good tank? Yes. Is it flavorful? Yes. Have I been burning through juice with this thing? Yes. I've already gone through one 120 with it, and I'm already into my second 120, which I do want to thank Mr. Fucking Out with the Batman. I mean, if this tells you anything, look. This is me starting into the second bottle, and this one is a 100 mil, I think? Yeah, 100 mil bottle. I already blasted through a 120, and I'm about a third of the way through a 100 mil in one tank in 2.5 weeks. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but considering how much shit I vape all the time, yeah, it's actually quite a bit for me. This is a banging little tank. It just is. So now I'm going to stick my vape band back on it, because we know me and bubble glasses. I love having more capacity, but I am like the killer of all bubble glasses. And that's one thing, man. That's a skinny bubble glass, so it takes up a lot of your view with the bubble. So, a skinny vape band bubble glass, wow. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if you already have the Aromamizer Plus V2, is there a need to buy this tank? It's a valid question. It's a damn valid question. I would really say that's highly subjective. Is the flavor difference that dramatically much to warrant going and buying another tank that is literally just a little bit shorter and honestly, you know, tall for a 25? I don't know. I mean, if you're happy with the V2, with the Plus V2, I'd say no. If you haven't tried a Steam Crave product yet and you'd like to try with something that will actually fit on a normal everyday mod, then yeah, I would recommend it. So, I don't know. I just kind of mixed that into if you own this and then if you've never touched it. So, but whatever, you know me, I'm random. So, I mean, this is the line. This is the new design setup. Okay, you got the Aromamizer Plus V2, which was their new airflow, new juice flow. You know, you've got the Ragnar. New airflow, new juice flow, and this one with the bottom airflow option as well, you know, and then you've got the Supreme V3. Now I'm waiting on the Titan. I want to see if the Titan actually follows into the same suit of new airflow, new juice flow positioning, and see what they do, if they do anything with it. Considering they came out with a version 1.5 mod, which will be coming up for the next review, I'm hoping that they do continue into the Titan, and let's see where that goes. So, if you already own an Aromamizer Plus V2, would I recommend you buy it? That's really subjective to you, man. I don't think the flavor difference is so immensely overwhelming to say go buy it. But at the same time, is it a banging ass tank? Oh, you bet your ass. So, dude, that cream cheese flaky pastry, oh my god. It's like a cream cheese streusel almond. Oh, it's fucking awesome. So, I don't know, man. At the end of the day, that's what I got. Use your brain, you know, take your information in your noggin and rock and roll with it and see how you feel with it. If it's something that seems interesting, there you go. If not, then moving right along. So I do want to give Steam Crave a big shout out for sending me this device for the purpose of review. I greatly appreciate it. I think you guys did a hell of a job with it, as you did with the V2 and as you with the Plus V2 and as you did with the Ragnar. I think you guys are on the right track with these tanks. I really do. It's just all about kind of relearning the Steam Crave thing, because when you do the Supreme and the Supreme V1, or the Supreme V1 and the Supreme V2 and the Aromamizer Plus and the Titan, you get very, very complacent with a certain build style. And with this change in airflow, as far as its positioning to the deck, you have to kind of relearn how to build them to get that optimal flavor. But boy, when you nail the positioning, it's freaking awesome. So, well, that's it. That's all in a story in a line, folks. So I want to thank you very much for watching this. And always, I do know that your time is money. Thank you very much for spending it with me. You guys have a good one.